Joining us now is Jamil, Jaffer, founder of the National Security Institute. So first, we should say we reached out to Anthropic for comment and haven't heard back, but I just want your perspective. What does it say that Claude was used even after this stand against their anti-wokeness, and they're going to gradually phase it out from the federal government in these operations? Is it simply too valuable to the government and to their work, especially when they're launching a war?
Well, Lisa, I think it demonstrates how important Anthropic and its Claude system is to the government, the fact that it's been distributed to a number of commands around the globe, that they're using it actively to do intelligence analysis, target identification, and the like. And so it's obviously an important product. Obviously, a huge dispute between the Department of War and the company itself. The CEO and the Secretary of Defense were trading barbs on Friday in public. Not a really good situation for the United States, particularly on the doorstep, as it turned out, of war.
Jamil, it does seem to be great marketing for Anthropic. Whether they designed it that way or not, I don't know, given that they were banned from use by the federal government and then so critical that they continued to be used by the federal government. But one question I have about all of this is how this fits into the broader conversation about the allowable use of AI. Because I feel like a lot of the debate thus far has been about to what extent the government could or should regulate the use of artificial intelligence. And here you have Anthropic instead saying, please restrict the ability of people, or in this case governments, to use our technology further. So I don't know, it just feels like almost the inverse of what the discourse has been. Rather than the government regulating AI, it's almost like the AI companies attempting to regulate the government.
Well, no, that's exactly right. I think that's part of the challenge here. Of course, you want AI and AI capabilities that are trusted, safe, and secure, and you want the model companies to be doing that work, and you want investors and innovators to be prioritizing that trust, safety, and security. That's how you're ensured there'll be a lot of uptake and that people will remain using it and that it'll be sticky. So that's actually a positive all around. That being said, once you sell a tool to the government can reasonably say, look, we want to use it for every lawful purpose. And when a company says, no, we're going to restrict your use of it, imagine if Lockheed Martin, and of course this would never happen, but imagine Lockheed Martin said to the Department of Defense, you can have the F-35s, you just can't use it to bomb Iran, or you just can't use it to bomb Syria, right? We would never accept that. This is a similar scenario, at least in the view of the government. That's what's causing this tension here. You want trust, safety, and security on one side. On the other side, the government says we want to be able to use it for all lawful purposes, and how you balance that out and how this plays out is really the key question.
Beyond that, though, of course, you have concerns about how the U.S. government, the president of this country, has tried to retaliate against Anthropic in quite personal terms by, calling them woke, radical, et cetera, and by basically trying to get them blacklisted. I mean, we have on our screen the former AI advisor to this president, Dean Ball, saying that this is simply attempted corporate murder. I could not possibly recommend investing in American AI to any investor. I could not possibly recommend starting an AI company in the United States. So beyond this debate over, what is the proper or improper use of AI, I wonder what you think the recent back and forth and attempted retribution by this president what effects that may have on further investment in this industry in the United States and further development of this industry, particularly as we're trying to compete with countries like China over this same technology.
Well, Catherine, look, Dean's a good friend. He's a very smart person. He wrote the AI action plan for this administration. So he's got a lot of important thoughts here. And he and I actually agree that in the sense that you should not be threatening companies. It's one thing to say, look, we're going to pull our contract. We're going to pull all of our contracts, even across the government, as President Trump said. But then the Secretary of Defense went further later on that day, on Friday, where he said, we're going to threaten every company who's used Anthropic and say, you can't use Anthropic either if you want a contract with DOD. Now, the question is that limited to just in use with DOD, or is it something else? It's something broader. But either way, that kind of threat is problematic. Calling it a supply chain risk is problematic. It probably isn't legal under the existing statute. So we'll see. This will get litigated in the courts. The other question, though, is can the government require Anthropic to provide its models to the government? Are they a monopoly or an oligopoly provider of a service the government needs in a time of war, like a steel company might be? That's a harder question. That would be involved using the Defense Production Act. They threatened that earlier, didn't actually use it, uses other authority, and I think that's where the problem is. So I think you're right, and Dean's right, to raise these important questions about this use of systematic risk. But then the question becomes, what happens next? Will they use DPA? I think there's some disagreements about whether that can be used or not in this context.
Certainly. I mean, it was certainly an issue when Eisenhower tried to nationalize the steel companies for using similar authorities. Jamil, Jaffer, thanks so much for your time tonight.
Thanks for having me on.